It's George from LGW3 Orchids and Exotics, and today I'm going to do a video on my terrarium, the watering. We're going to go through some fertilizing, some new changes I made with some of the lighting, how I keep the humidity levels up, and this comes at the request of YouTube subscriber Margaret East. So Margaret, thank you. Good topic. We're going to tackle that today. And as you can see, this is the inside of the terrarium. Again, I'm going to go ahead and get set up in the kitchen with the supplies, and we'll show you how we take care of this. Alright, so be right back. Now we're going to go ahead and mix up some of the fertilizer and a couple other additives that I put in here. So the first thing we'll go through, I use this. It's a basic Schultz orchid food. It's got a number of 193117. Again, some people love to use a middle number that's not quite as high. This I found actually promotes blooms. Again, whatever works for you. I know there's some MSU formulas that have slightly lower numbers, that actually the middle number is not high at all. Another thing I like to put in here on occasion, it's called Super Thrive, and I don't know if this is available everywhere. I believe I picked this up over at Home Depot or Lowe's, one of those places. I know you can order it from Amazon and a couple other places. And basically it's a vitamin. They don't disclose all the different items in it, but I believe it may actually even have some plant hormones and things like that. But they say and claim it helps good plant growth, not just for orchids, but for any sort of plant. Again, I use this on occasion. I don't use a lot of it. The other thing I like to use is CalMag here. So this CalMag is good. Most plants prefer obviously decent levels of magnesium. Magnesium is pretty much equivalent to iron in the blood, for transporting oxygen. Magnesium is the same thing for plants and has a lot to do with the photosynthesis and carrying nutrients, etc. So you'll find that some people like to use more alternative methods for calcium and things like that. They'll as well as the magnesium. Some people will use like kelp. I've read people crushing up clamshells, putting some of that in a mixture. I prefer just to go ahead with a mixture that's already diluted with the elements needed. I find this works pretty well. So, alright, so the first thing we're going to do here is going to go ahead and mix up our mixture here. I'm going to throw a little bit of this fertilizer in. And I don't use very much. This measurement here is actually a 1/4 teaspoon. I will actually go ahead and use probably about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Okay. And next thing I'll do is give this a quick mix. And again, I'll just go ahead and visually spot this. A couple drops, nothing much. I believe the correct ratio they say is about 1 or 2 tablespoons per gallon. Again, this is probably a half a gallon, if that. So I don't put very much in there. We'll go ahead and mix this Super Thrive. I'm also just going to go ahead and add literally just a drop or two. And this here, the same thing. I guess here it's saying about a 1/4 teaspoon per gallon, depending on the strength you want to mix up. Next thing I'll do is I'll go ahead over here with the faucet, just make sure the water is warm. Now you got to remember these orchids are in the terrarium, so we have some climate control in there. Temperature usually doesn't get below, I would say, probably 65 at the minimum. So you don't want to shock the orchids, of course. You want to make sure that the water is between 65 and 70 to somewhat meet that temperature need and not shock the orchid. Okay, going to go ahead and fill this up. And again, I'm not using anything special. One thing to note, a lot of these orchids that are in the terrarium, they prefer, or actually I should say they come from high up in the mountains, and so you got to remember it's a cooler environment. The water tends to be more pure. You know, you get a lot of cloud cover and fog and condensation, so the water doesn't have, you know, all sorts of chemicals. I mean, you do get some runoff from the plants and the trees and things like that that feed nutrients, but it's not an extremely nutrient-rich environment where you want to go ahead and use too much fertilizer and other additives like this. You can actually mix this up with distilled water if you prefer. I do on occasion mix some of it up with distilled water, but I don't go too crazy with it. I'll just give this a stir for maybe a minute. Alright, that should be good. Alright, and next thing I'll meet you over by the terrarium and I'll show you exactly what I do. Now for the actual work part, taking care of watering these orchids. So what I do is, you gotta remember, a lot of these orchids, like I said, they come from high up in the mountains, South America, etc. So they love humidity. You know, they have very high humidity levels, probably on the order of 80–90%. But they're not soaked. You know, there's still airflow around the plant itself, the roots, etc. They don't want to be, you know, soaking wet. So what I like to do is, if you come over here, you can see, first thing I like to do is I have an air plant here. You can see there's multiple new heads growing on it. When I actually got this last year, it only had one. It is growing out more. I like to throw this guy in, kind of let it soak a little bit. I find that this one takes a little bit longer to absorb some of the water. I'm going to go ahead here. I have a few other air plants, and these guys, same thing. I'll just kind of leave it in there for a few seconds. These other ones with it's more of a round leaf. They don't need to really be soaking that long. Just go ahead and give it a quick douse. Okay, I'll go ahead and take it out. I'm going to leave that other one in there. As I mentioned, the leaves on the other one takes a little longer to absorb some of the water. I want to make sure it gets a nice soaking, even with higher humidity levels. You know, if you look here, I have my thermometer and humidity gauge here. So this thing here shows the humidity inside and the current temperature, both at 66. You can see the temperature got up to 70 today, or the past 24 hours I should say, and as low as 63. And humidity as high as 94 and as low as 55%. So now we'll go ahead and water this other orchid. This is an Epidendra Matthewsi. Again, I just come over here, give it a quick little soaking. Doesn't need anything long. Go ahead and let the water drip a little bit. Again, you don't want to put these guys back soaking wet. You want to make sure it drips off. You know, the idea is that, you know, you want to fertilize these guys. Again, I use distilled water inside the tank there, so the humidity is really pure. There's not a lot of nutrient in there. It's mostly just H2O, so to give these guys a little bit of a soaking like this every now and then, even though they're in that environment, has the benefit of added nutrients. So I'll go ahead and hang this one. And what I do too is, again, it's not necessary to water all of these all the time. You know, I feel it out. If you look here, look at this guy. This is actually a Lepanthes. Calodicty on cut leaves. If you look real close, it actually has a little flower growing. I don't know if you can see there. It's actually a little flower right on top of the leaf there. So pretty amazing little specimen. If you look from the side view, it actually looks like a fly that's actually standing up on top of the leaf. And these guys are very short-lived. Kind of hard to zoom in here. They don't live very long, the flowers. However, the plant itself is doing great. I've gotten this thing to bloom multiple times. Again, I'll give it a nice little soak here. Okay. Hang this guy up. You know, and the same thing for these. I'll give them a quick little feel if they feel as though they're getting dry. I will go ahead and moisten it. Go ahead, shaking off the water. Alright. This guy, I think that one's okay. I'll give this one a nice little soaking. Okay. Alright. And this guy looks pretty moist already. I don't want to saturate it too much. This last one, we'll give it a quick little douse. Alright, so that's it for that. So as far as the two, actually the 3 carnivorous plants back there, I just have a spray bottle with some distilled water. I usually come in here and give it a little spray around the sides. These have very sticky leaves. These are the Pingicula. So I'll usually just give it a little bit of a spray. Just want to keep the sphagnum moss moist around the sides here. And that's it. You know, it's pretty much that simple. Again, I have the container here. This is the reptile fogger that I bought at a local pet store. And that runs up the top here, and that turns on every 3 hours for about 10 minutes and fills this all up with fog really nice. I can actually demonstrate that real quick for you to see. So if you see here, you can see how the nice mist just comes down. And again, it's a nice cool mist. If I were to have this door closed, you'd actually see this entire thing fog up. And that's it. So this is my process for fertilizing and keeping my terrarium watered and everything happily growing. And I've had this thing set up now for probably since October. So everything's been thriving in here. I've had multiple blooms on a lot of these flowers, no issues. Again, you always want to research the orchid that you have, make sure that it can tolerate the higher humidity, the warmer temperatures. We have the heating mat under here. Obviously, certain orchids like masdevallias and things like that, you don't want to put them in here because though they might enjoy higher humidity levels, they will not like the warmer environment and not as much air movement in here. So, alright, if you have any questions, if you like it, let me know. If you think something could be improved, you want to see something different, new video suggestions, feel free to comment and let me know. Alright, happy growing everybody. Bye.